One more to go. Here we go. And what did you know? It is Monday Mindset, and we're on a little bit later for us, but a little bit early for someone else. But that's the beauty of what we do. We can adjust things, and we know a lot of people are adjusting. I know I'm adjusting today, but we are blessed and honored. It is Monday Morning Mindset. This is Carol, aka Live with Two
Sisters. Hey, good morning, everyone. This is Janice, aka Wellness Diva 5.0. And today's guest, he's actually a very good friend of another friend who has been, of course, a repeat offender on the TwoSistas podcast. And sometimes when you meet someone, and this is why Carol Sue and I love doing our little pre-podcast chit chats. Today's guest let's just say he's amazing, right? He has a disability, which we're going to go into in just a moment, but this is perfect for Mindset Monday because he doesn't look at his disability as that. It's an ability which he's just amazing. So without further ado, we want to welcome to the TwoSistas Monday Mindset podcast, Nathan Gutierrez. Welcome, Nathan. We are so excited to have you here today.
Well, thank you both for having me. I'm very excited to be here and to share with your audience.
Wonderful. You are the founder and CEO of Wheel Life Enterprises. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do and why you are where you are today? Because Carol Sue and I always say the story behind the story. So let's start the conversation.
Sure. Well, I started Wheel Life Coaching. It's Wheel Life Enterprises, but Wheel Life Coaching is a big part of that because I wanted to help people with spina bifida, spinal cord injuries, and mobility disabilities become more independent. Independence is one of the key factors for most people to make a living, to make a difference in the world. A lot of people, when they get to be 18 years old, they move out of the house, they go to school, they get a job and what have you. But there are a number of people out there with disabilities who don't always have that chance for one reason or another, and myself included when I turned 18. And so I wanted to find a way that I could help people through a lot of those barriers that a lot of people, I think, take for granted, as far as moving out into their own apartment, finding a job, going to school, driving, things of that nature. Again, that most people don't even think about, whereas people like myself, it takes a lot more planning. So that's really where the business spurned from. I also do some professional speaking, or I have historically. I love being up on stage, sharing my story with people. And I think if it resonates with people that, they can relate to what they're going through and they see somebody else going through it, and then also having some success with that they realize that they have the potential to be just as successful.
That is amazing, number one. But number two is, and I think people, when we talk about those specific needs that you say, those that do not have these different obstacles in their way, literally, we take that for granted and we don't understand just the simplicity of going to reach up to an upper cabinet or reaching low to a lower cabinet. And you
Absolutely.
said driving all these different pieces, and how, I love that there are so many connections with different corporations now that are making that happen for a lot of people. But I think the average person that is blessed in one avenue, that they don't have to worry about those obstacles, they also need to educate themselves and really understand how little, and it's a really small example in the bigger scheme of life, but how so much we do take for granted. And I think the mindset has to change on that for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. You bring up a couple of really good points. One of the things that I have found in my life and in the last few years, trying to get this going, was that there are things that I haven't even thought of and things that I've taken for granted in terms of family support, things I've been able to do, things that are second nature to me just because of my ability to do certain things, or support that I've received, help I've received from friends, and just the fact that I'm able to do certain things that I don't think about, For instance, when you stand up and walk, I can't, but when you stand up and walk, it's probably not even a thought. You just get up and do it.
Right.
Same thing for me. When I transfer in and out of my car or something, yeah, it takes a little bit longer than most people, but it's second nature. It's something I've done for a number of years, and I don't really think about it. Now, with that being said, I do have to be conscientious of what I'm doing at the same time, because if I move too quickly, I could fall, I could drop a tire and then be in real trouble because I can't reach it. So I have to have deliberate action, but at the same time, it's not something new to me. It just becomes second nature because I've been doing it for so long.
When you say that, that's kind of really retraining that mindset that I can't, I will, I do. What would you say to someone out there? Because one of the key pieces when I think about issues like that, whether it's a physical limitation, a mental limitation, so many families are blessed that they have that great family support behind them. But I think in some realm, the person that's really supporting them understands we're all on borrowed time. And if you don't have that encouragement, or you rely solely on that support system, when you know that support system is not going to be there forever, how do you, what would you suggest to someone with the limitations that they think they have? Because I truly believe they're there, but it's an obstacle. We can overcome them. We just got to renegotiate, renavigate, to really include and join different support groups, because that support system isn't going to be there forever. Depending on whether they've decided that it's best for them to continue living in where they were brought up, or, they've navigated through another piece. And that's such a big piece. The support system is such a big piece to the sustainability that they can and they will. How would you go about suggesting, what would they do? Like reaching out to other support groups, what would they do?
Yeah, Carol Sue, that's a great question. So I think that a lot of people, when they hear support group, they think it's more of a dependence upon, whereas I see it more of a partnership. And that could be family, it could be friends, it could be a caretaker coming in from the outside, it could be teachers, it could be neighbors, it could be a number of people, but it's really that partnership. It's not, you're going to do things for me, it's going to be, you're going to help me help myself. And so really it takes both of you, both parties, to make it successful. If one person receiving the help is just receiving the help and they don't take some form of initiative to do some of it on their own, now I realize there are certain activities and certain circumstances that really inhibit people from doing certain things. I mean, if you were to come over and help me stand up, you could, but there's no way I could do it. That's impossible for me to do unless we were to put me in braces and a lot of physical therapy, things like that. I suppose over a long period of time it could work, but just to pick me up and say, okay, stand up on your own now, it's not going to happen. So there are realistic expectations that we have to have, but at the same time, if it comes down to you can do it, it might be challenging, but it is possible. That person has to take the initiative to do it on their own. And I think that's where a lot of people stumble, because they think that support system is going to be around forever. And that's not necessarily true.
Nathan, are there different types of, let me back that up a little bit. When you mention realistic expectations, is there an organization, probably piggybacking off of Carol Sue's question, are there different organizations that can really help a family kind of navigate, the planning part of, for instance, if someone relies on their parents or, friends and family to assist them, are there different organizations where they can, have a conference and kind of be coached or directed on implementing steps so that, God forbid, when something happens, it's an easier transition for the person who needs the assistance.
Yeah, it's an interesting thought, Janice. So there are a number of organizations that do address a number of those concerns, those issues. However, from my experience, I have found that a lot of those organizations and what they offer are piecemeal. So they don't necessarily offer an all-in-one solution. They do a great job at a certain aspect of assisting an individual, but they don't necessarily have all of the answers. And maybe that's wishful thinking to think that one single organization have all the answers. And certainly my organization doesn't. But at the same time, a lot of those different organizations are rehab hospitals, they're government funded, so they have a singular purpose or a very focused purpose. And so that's the reason for their existence. And so they're only able, due to funding or staffing or their expertise, they're only able to offer certain services, certain assistance. And what I've found is that a lot of those organizations are professionals who are master's degrees, doctorates, they're nurses, they're caretakers, physicians, social workers, and they do a great job, but they learned a lot of that from an academic standpoint. They didn't necessarily learn it through their own experience. So somebody with a physical disability from day one, from birth, I've been through a lot myself. And so I've gone through the trial and error and figuring out what to do, what not to do. I've called organizations over my lifetime. Of course, it all started with my parents, but we've had to do the guesswork and the, trying to figure it out. And it's not an easy system to navigate. And so again, not that my business has all the solutions, because it certainly don't, but I think we can come from an area that, I have that personal background and that personal experience. So I know where a lot of the pitfalls are. I know where a lot of the organizations are that specialize in certain things to help an individual or group of individuals to be successful. You can't really necessarily just rely on the educational piece. You have to rely on the life experience as well.
Now, when you're, talking about that, and certainly many that are born with some sort of physical ailment that does not allow them to live life easier than the rest of us mostly do. How about the person, because like you said, your parents were your advocates, this is something that, you had to learn to navigate at a very, very early age, that this is what you know. But what about that person that now suffers a disability? Maybe it's due to an accident. Maybe it's due to a later disease or something that was found out much later, where they needed certain different surgeries. And now the end result is that they are in that wheelchair. And it's a totally different situation, because it's not something that they grew up with, had that constant support. Now all of a sudden they go from being able to do things to now rely on, okay, I've got to totally renavigate, totally renegotiate my mindset, where I believe your expertise and your coaching is going to serve them well, because you're looking at it from different aspects. What would you say to someone like that? I mean, because now you're dealing with somebody that's had a pretty normal life up to that point.
Yeah, I have a lot of friends in that exact situation. A lot of times it's an auto accident, unfortunately. I have a really good friend who runs his own nonprofit, and it was certainly not planned in his life, but he went skiing with his family, and he was dating a girl for about a year, so it was a fairly new relationship. And he slipped and fell right in front of her, and he broke his neck. And he's a quadriplegic, not entirely, but he has very minimal hand and arm function. He's in a chair, so he can't walk. And they've made it work. They got married. They ended up having a daughter who's now 11, I think. And as a result of his accident, and mind you, they had just graduated from college the year before. They just started dating less than a year before his injury. So a lot happened.
Right.
She moved in with his parents to help him. She could have left. And so I really applaud her, and we talk about this often, but they were really determined to figure out how they were going to make it work. And within a couple of years, they said, this has not been easy for us. So why don't we go ahead and start a nonprofit organization that helps other people like us? And they did. And they've been in existence over a decade now, and very, very successful here in California. They were named one of the top nonprofits for disabled people in California. But I've always said that I think that if somebody suffers an injury or an illness of some kind in the middle of their life, I would imagine that is more difficult than going through it from birth like I have, because I've had literally my entire life to adjust. And that's not to say that things have been easy for me, because they haven't in a lot of ways, but it is more challenging, I think, when you have something that happens in the middle of your life. But again, I think it goes back to that basic principle of finding out who's really going to be part of your support system. And unfortunately, we'd like to think that that's our family first and foremost, but in some cases, that's just not the case. Whether the parents are no longer around, or, siblings or whatever. Sometimes it's teachers, it's coaches, it's people who aren't related to them. Sometimes it's friends and other people that they meet through these nonprofit organizations who become their support system. So it really doesn't matter where the support system starts, but it is possible to find those people who can help you through whatever difficulties you're facing.
Wow, that is unbelievable. And from where they were in their relationship, him going through his injury to where they are today and starting a nonprofit, which you said is like one of the #1 nonprofits for handicapped people, I believe you said that. That is phenomenal. I'm getting the chills just thinking about that.
No, and so I think, your message also is really, and I'm really surprised you would think in this day and age where the opportunity to create and impact others in such a profound way is always available. So I'm really surprised that there isn't, for lack of better terms, one-stop shopping. A nonprofit or a company that says, look, we're going to deal with the mental piece about, and we're going to partner with these groups for the mindset piece, the support piece. Then we're going to have another department that's for, maybe they need help with the renovation of their house to make sure that it suits their physical handicap needs and challenges. And then, like a peer mentoring, maybe mentor that person that sadly went through an accident like the one you're describing. I'm surprised, and so I'm going to put that out there, and I'm going to challenge you. Wouldn't you love to be a part of a corporation or a company that you could kind of have that one-stop shopping for all those needs?
Well, I'm creating it. Not just trying to join the organization. I'm trying to create that organization.
That's amazing. Love it.
It's challenging though, because every individual is just that, an individual. So for instance, both of you are sisters. You came from the same family, the same background, all of that, but you have very diverse personalities. You have different life experiences. In the relationships that you have now, I mean, you're related by blood. You grew up in the same household, I'm assuming, but you're different people, and that's a great thing. And I think that it's the same or very similar in these circumstances too. So while a lot of these people who are my friends suffered similar injuries, let's say due to a car accident, and again, that's a bulk of them. Their injury levels are different. Their ability levels and their disability levels are different. Their current and past living circumstances are different. So it's challenging to say, okay, here's the all-in-one program with all of these pieces that are going to help you become successful, it's not necessarily going to work because, again, not everybody has all the resources or the abilities or capabilities or the support, which is a big piece,
Right.
to make that work. I wish, and in a perfect world, that would be the case where we would have let's just call it a Walmart type a program to where we just plug people into it and we say, okay, by the end of this, you're going to come out the other side and you're going to have great results, and everybody's going to have the great consistent results at the end. But it's just not possible because there are so many variables at play.
Wow. That, yeah, when you explain it like that, I want to go back to your story for a moment because, as you mentioned, you've had a lifelong history of certain things happen. And as I was going through your bio again, I was struck by what happened to you when you were 18 years old.
Oh, with my kidney transplant?
Yes.
Well, that was in my early 20s. And yeah, so I was in college and I was sitting at my dining room table, and I think I had just, trying to remember, it's been a while, but I think I had just finished the final semester of school, and I wasn't feeling well, and it was just like this persistent flu. I mean, we've all had the flu, we all know what that feels like, but this was a flu that wouldn't go away, and I'm talking it wouldn't go away for about 2 weeks. And so what happened was my life for this 2-week period was I would sleep for 10 or 12 hours. I'd get up, felt like I didn't sleep at all. I would get sick and with nothing in my stomach. And then I would be cold. And where I live, it could get to 90, 100 degrees in June. And so this was June 2006. And I'm thinking, okay, if I'm freezing and I'm in a sweatshirt and sweats in 100-degree weather, something's not right. And so, I was still living at home at the time. And my mom said, look, I know you're over 18. I was 23 at the time. She said, but there's something seriously wrong here and you need to go to the doctor. So I'm your mom. I'm going to take over here, and being a young adult, you want to assert your independence, even still living at home. And she said, I don't care. You can get mad at me, but I'm taking you to the doctor. So she did.
Mom's instinct.
Yep. She drove me to the hospital, and these were doctors I'd had for majority of my life. And they did the what I call the pat down checkup. They just pat you down and take a couple of samples of blood and say, hey, you're in college. You're probably just under a lot of stress. Just relax, you're fine. I wasn't fine because a week later the blood results came back and I was in stage 5 renal failure, kidney failure. And that's as bad as it gets. So they said, you need to start dialysis today. And so that took me on a 3-year journey of dialysis 3 days a week for 3 hours per treatment. I was in school at the time, so I, did my best. I would do dialysis in the morning. I'd have my arm bandaged up, and then I would go to class. And I don't know if you're familiar with dialysis, but a lot of people, I think, hear more about chemo. And so I'm not making a direct comparison to chemo because I have no idea what that is, but I've heard, what it's about. But I've heard that the lack of energy or what it does to you, it just zaps you completely.
Correct.
That is what I went through for almost 3 years while going to school for about 1.5 years. I would literally go across the street from my dialysis unit to class and then come home and then try and do homework and pass out sleeping. I mean, it was tough. About 1.5 years into that journey, I almost passed out on campus, and it's not a very big campus, but I went across campus and I started seeing spots, and I just thought, I can't keep doing this. It's not healthy for me. Something's going to happen. So I met with my academic advisor. I met with my parents. And I said, I can't do this as much as I want to, because it's a good distraction for me. I physically cannot do this. So everybody understood, and I took a break, ended up going through insurance battles, and that was a whole thing on its own. And then my dad got tested during this time. Turns out he was going to be able to be my donor. And then we went through the transplant, and then a few months later I returned, and I only had 3 classes to go by the time I returned. And then it was interesting. My dad even took me aside and he goes, you've been through so much. And this was a guy who had pushed me from the time I was little to go to school, go to school, go to school. And here I had 3 classes left. And he goes, look, if you've been through so much, if you just want to not do this, it's okay. I've seen what you've been dealing with. And I looked at him and go, are you crazy? I said, I've come this far to be 3 classes short. I'm going to finish.
Right.
So I did. And overall, it took me 9 years to get my degree, but I was able to finish. And I think because of that, I think I have built up some of that credibility to help other people and let them know that I've been there. I know what this is about. I don't know every experience there is out there, but I know this, that it is possible with the right support and the right plan to get back into the game and to finish what you start.
So I'm going to ask you a tough question. Would you change anything?
That is an excellent question. And I have been asked that a number of times over the course of my career. And I think most people, their immediate reaction would be, absolutely, I don't like being in this chair or this situation, and give me the magic pill. I've thought about that. And I would say, no, I wouldn't change it. And the reason why is because while the disability, while the kidney failure, they're not me, but they're certainly a significant part of my story. And so if I hadn't gone through being born with a disability, having the kidney failure, I wouldn't have met people that I've met who were awesome people. I wouldn't have had the jobs that I've had, the volunteer opportunities. I wouldn't be here doing this interview with you. There are a lot of things that wouldn't have happened in my life had I not had that happen. If I could go back and take a magic pill or something, or even if I took a magic pill now and all of a sudden I'm up walking. And I think a lot of people are surprised when they hear that. But it's true. I think a lot of my experiences, and I think it's true for all of us, our experiences, both good and bad, have shaped who we are. But I want to be clear, and I'm just going to reiterate this. Your experiences, good or bad, are not who you are, but they're certainly a part of who you are.
And I think the key piece to that too is really something that struck me this weekend, and a comment I heard, and I really took it to heart because I really felt it really applied to all aspects of life, whether you're born with something or you have to find, all of a sudden you're facing an adversity you would have never even thought possible. And I think the average person, to really appreciate and understand the adversities that many do go through, is they have to upgrade their server. They got to upgrade their application, meaning their mindset. They have to understand that. Did you reset it? Are you really seeing what's out there, where you can add value, where you can serve? And many that go through different types of adversities, whether you're born with it or you have a situation which forced you into it, really those that truly understand and get it answer that question the way that you did. That no, if I could tell my future self this is where I would be, or if I could tell the person I was in the womb that this is where I would be, I wouldn't change it, because of everyone has a purpose. And like you exactly said, that certain pieces of that, things that happen to us or that are a part of us, shape how we inevitably can impact the world. So I love that answer. You did great.
Yeah, thank you. And one thing I want to mention, and hopefully none of your listeners take offense to this, but it is important to me, so I do want to say it. I'm a Christian, and I have very strong faith, and that is the single thing that if I had nothing else in my life, that is what got me through it. I have great parents. I have a great younger sister, now a new brother-in-law, and a nephew on the way. He's going to be here in a couple of months. Yeah, but even without them, my faith has gotten me through everything.
Wow. That is really beautiful. And a strong part of that is the story behind the story, and how you look and view at, you are not who you are because of your disability. It's a part of you. It's part of your story. What is one thing about your story that perhaps sticks out to you? When you think of it, you're just like, wow, okay, I learned from that, because, like, is there something that has transpired that you look back to and maybe you smile about it, or you want to share it?
There are probably a number of things. Yeah. And I think I mentioned this, but, I'll go into a little bit more, that there are certain experiences that I've had since then. And I think that, I don't know if you're familiar with the butterfly effect,
Mhm.
but it's similar to the butterfly effect, because, these certain things happened years ago. I was able to meet certain people and go through certain experiences that I may not have gone through otherwise, or met otherwise, that have been wonderful experiences. One of the things that I think about frequently, even today, and it's been a few years since I've gone through this, but or had the opportunity to experience this. A few years ago, I had an opportunity to coach girls basketball, high school basketball, and I never in a million years that I think I'd ever coach girls. I'd coached boys a few times, but coaching girls are very different. And the only reason I was able to coach the girls was because the varsity head coach was the daughter of our city's mayor, who I grew close to because of an organization that I ran, because I worked there years ago, who also fundraised money for me as a result of my kidney failure. I hope that wasn't too confusing, but it
Nope,
went
I got it.
way back. And so if I look from where it started to where it ended up, I wouldn't have had that experience.
Mhm.
And, as of today, these young ladies are adults, and they're starting their own lives, and some of them still email me. And I had a couple of experiences where one experience in particular, who one of the girls told me that she had an opportunity to move up to the varsity team. This was a few years ago. I was the JV girls head coach, and while she liked the varsity coach, who was a friend of mine, still a friend of mine, she didn't want to play for the varsity coach. She says, if I can't play for you, I'm quitting. And that really touched me. I think it created a little issue in our program, but it made me feel good that I was doing something right, that I had made an impact on this young lady. And again, that wouldn't have happened had I not gone through this experience. Geez, what, 10 years before I had met this girl?
Wow. So with what you want to accomplish, what your goals and your dreams are, to create real life, besides the real life coaching, the whole gamut, it's definitely a goal of yours to incorporate more. Where could the average person say, what can I do? How can I help him?
I think that if they know somebody, who can benefit from my services, please send them my way. Please send them to my website, wheellifecoaching.com. And again, it's 2 L's, one in the wheel, one in life, wheellifecoaching.com. And let me see what I can do to get to help them.
Wow, that is amazing. And is there, speaking of goals, and since of course it is Mindset Monday, is there a big goal that you are working toward, like something perhaps that's on the horizon for you?
Oh, there are a lot of them. One thing, and I don't know what it looks like, to be honest, but one thing I would love to do is speak to Congress one day, and in a way that gets more attention for people with physical disabilities, to get more funding and research behind not just solving spinal cord injuries, something like that, healing spinal cord injuries, but more funding for programs like the wonderful nonprofits that are out there who are actively helping people with these disabilities. There are certain disabilities, and it is what it is, that are receiving a ton of attention in the media, that are receiving a ton of money and funding, whereas there are other disabilities that are less prominent, I guess you could say, in society. That, for instance, I'll just say this: a lot of people look at me and they go, "Well, you're fine. You don't need, you're doing fine." There's so many people with other conditions that need more help, and so that really makes me feel negated in a way. That, so you don't think that I don't struggle and people like me don't struggle? We do. We just have to find ways to make it work. So I'd really like to see more funding and opportunities for those of us who, while we may not have as severe of a disability as people may think, even with just a little bit of help, that could really help propel us. One thing I learned a long time ago, and I was astounded, it blew my mind. I was meeting with some people in a past job who worked for the Social Security Administration. And it was just my local office, so it wasn't federal level or anything. And they told me that their priority of service was to serve the most severe people possible first. And again, I'm not opposed to anybody and everyone who needs it getting assistance. That's great. I want everybody to get assistance. But I had to raise my hand, and I think they were a little upset when I asked the question. I said, so if I need, let's just say I need a little help getting my driver's license, or get my first apartment, or go to school, you're going to make me wait behind somebody who's going to need a decade's worth of assistance. And they go, well, the priority of service is we help the most needy first. And I thought, wow, so you're going to make me wait, even though I need a month's worth of help or whatever, because of that. And then I was not happy with that. And so things like that need to change systemically, because it shouldn't be, it shouldn't be where there's one queue, one line, and your wait might be years and years down the road when you need just a little bit of help. Just get me the help that I need, and I'll be out of your hair. I'll be done. But please don't make me wait years and years when I don't need that assistance. So I don't know how many people know that, but I was shocked.
Wow.
Well, I think, you raised some great awareness regarding that. And I think there's probably other areas of different types of disabilities probably feeling that same thing that you're feeling is, where does, and it's a whole other topic, obviously, where does the big G lie in, allowing people in to the country? There's a lot of funding that goes through that, where our own citizens need the help like you do. So it's definitely a tough question, but a question that needs to be answered for sure. And I wish that more people out there, if you have the means to, help your company really expand in awareness, expand, and also, because that's got to be a piece of the puzzle of funding. A lot of people, you are fighting the insurance. I mean, people fight the insurance companies out there on some basic needs, never mind the gigantic ones that you're talking about. It shouldn't be that hard for people that are in need to get the assistance they need it when they need it. And that is the narrative that has to change. People should not have to jump through hoops of their insurance company and wait for a 30-day decision, and then have to now send in a another request because, you want an appeal, you don't feel this is right. And you go through that whole process while same time you're struggling with getting help and assistance, maybe through a more local chapter or federal piece to it. It shouldn't be that hard to help other people. I think that's the narrative that needs to be changed.
Yeah, I think you're right. And so I think there are two paths that people take when they run into that. Number one, they say, you know what, if I'm not going to get the help I need, then I quit, and they give up. The other path, which is the path I've taken multiple times with different scenarios, was that, well, then I'm not waiting. And I know that sounds impatient, and it is, but I'm not waiting because I need this done and I need it done now. And, sometimes it's a matter of, okay, this is just something of a convenience, but I don't want to wait for it. But then sometimes it's a matter of life and living, your living situation, and you don't have time to wait. So you have to do whatever you can to go find those resources. And it's a battle out there sometimes to just find the right information. There's a lot of information out there, but there's a lot of wrong information out there. And if you start chasing that information down a wrong path, now you're further away than where you were when you started.
Wow.
And there are a lot of people out there who battle that every single day.
Wow. Other than you had mentioned, of course, your website, where can our viewers and listeners connect with you further?
I'm on Instagram. Now I don't post a whole lot. I'm trying to post more. It's just Wheel Life, again, 2 L's, _coach. So that's where you can find me. And then I'm going to be starting a YouTube channel here shortly.
Oh, well, that's good to hear.
Yes.
Congratulations on that.
Yeah.
Wow, this has been such an amazing conversation. And of course, I just want to segue over for just a moment and welcome all of our amazing listeners who have been listening to you and sharing your story. It really is the story behind the story, which has propelled you to where you are today. And I think that is just amazing. And I think we've only, Carol Sue, just really scratched the surface.
There's a lot of questions out there, a lot of need. And again, to me, it's like you've got to really reprogram and upgrade your mindset of the need that's out there in many avenues, whether it's you want to focus on what exactly you're doing. For some, it may be, anyone with a disability, whether it's physical and or mind, or their mind, or its limitations. We want to be a people of limitless, that, whatever challenges we have, they're just that, they're challenges, some greater than others, some that take literally the life out of you. But we have to do a better job of connecting and making people understand that these things are very real. It's about the quality of life, not the quantity of what somebody has, but the quality. And there are many, many avenues. We live in an abundance of this country is with abundance, and it really needs to be utilized to help those that want just to be able to live in the same manner as the next person, despite their challenges and maybe for their challenges. So then they can inspire others that are in their situation to get the help and or just that support piece to it. So I applaud you. You're heading in the right direction. We're going to put it out in the universe that, it's going to work. You're going to create that avenue of whole life, real life coaching in every aspect to deal with the everyday things, the support system, the funding, the insurance, the grants, whatever it may be, to help others be the best of what they can be in their life.
Absolutely.
And we want to take this opportunity for sharing your story with TwoSistas on this Mindset Monday. And of course, we hope that you certainly will consider coming back to visit us again.
Oh, absolutely. This has been a lot of fun. I appreciate you having me today. And yeah, please let me know anytime.
Wonderful. You know, this has been an amazing podcast. And if you know of someone who may benefit from this podcast, have them reach out to Nathan. And of course, as always, if you have a story to share with Two Sistas regarding health, wellness, whatever it may be for you, we'd love to hear from you. Please feel free to go to our website, www.twosistas, SISTAS.online. My name is Janice, aka Wellness Diva 5.0, and I am with Two
Sisters, and it's AK Naughty Boston. Wanted to let you know that we are going to be putting all of Nathan's information and connections under the show notes. We really appreciate that everyone that jumped on, in whether it's the Wisdom app or Facebook Live, or you're watching this in a replay. Let us know. It's really always about upgrading ourselves, upgrading our mindset on this Monday Mindset. Are you living your life to the full purpose, the full potential that you know you feel it, but you're kind of afraid to do it? Just go out and do it. You know, when we pass on our blessings and our gifts, it's received with gratitude and it's going to impact others. That's the whole point of why we live our lives, right? You want to create that positive journey. Thank you so much for everyone getting on, and we'll see you tomorrow for Triumph Tuesday. What are you going to be triumphing over? I know what I'm triumphing over. Have you seen my swollen eyeballs? Well, they're there.
We'll talk
Take
about
care,
that tomorrow. Bye,
Take care.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.